A very good afternoon, everybody. Today, in this live session, semester 4 students are going to make a presentation on Introduction to Amitav Ghosh's novel, Gun Island. This novel is quite relevant in our times because the novel deals with very interesting concerns of today. One is climate change, and another is migration. And in the vision of Amitav Ghosh, these two are interconnected with each other, or at least we can say in this novel, Amitav Ghosh tries to visualize that the human migration, the human trafficking, which is a global issue today, is somehow connected with the issue of climate change also. In his broader, or rather we can say a post-colonial vision, he also tries to see that the human migration normally is towards the first world countries. And he perhaps wants to say that it is the first world countries who had played a very significant, vital, important role in disturbing the climate of the earth also. So those are the people who are now not ready to pay the price of the human migration, which is driven by the climate change, which somehow was initiated by the European empires in the bygone centuries. So let us see how, with the help of myth and connecting history and mythology together, Amitav Ghosh, in his unique style, has talked about these all relevant themes of our times in this novel, Gun Island. So let us invite the group of students to share their introduction to this novel. Yes, you can now start with your presentation.
Very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kusum Sarvaya, and today me and my co-presenters are going to make a presentation on Gun Island, written by Amitabh Ghosh. My co-presenters are Jatin Varu, Divya Chadav, Jay Solanki, Jay Marunya, Akshay Nimbark, and Dhatri Parmar. So let's start with the author, Amitav Ghosh. He is an acclaimed Indian author who known for his thought-provoking works of historical and contemporary fiction, which often explores themes such as colonialism, climate change, migration, and the interconnectedness of humans and environmental histories. So he was born in 1956 in Kolkata, India, and after completing his higher education in Delhi University, he have earning a PhD in social anthropology from the University of Oxford, and as we have know the works of the other works of Amitav Ghosh, we comes to know that how his interest of anthropology and in environmental studies we can easily notice in his other works as well. So he is awarded by Jnanpith Award in the year of 1980, and awarded by Sahitya Akademi Award as well for his another work, which is entitled The Shadow Lies. These are the other works of Amitav Ghosh. The Living Mountains, The Great Derangement, which is a non-fiction work, the Hungry Tide, and the Glass Palace, and the last one, but not the last, but the trilogy, the Abyss trilogy, which is based on basically the Opium War, which is between British India and China. So let's discuss the key facts of the novel. So the novel, it is based on the continental the tale of myths, ecological crisis, and human displacement, linking past legends with the present realities. So we can say this novel is the transformative journey of the main character, the Dinanath, which is a Bengali legend, and modern environmental challenges are there in the whole novel. The whole novel is, we can say that the set is set against the backdrop of climate disruption, and intertwines the folklore, which is the folklore of Mansa Devi. The human migration is there, and the natural disaster in a global narrative as well. So how Amitav Ghosh have present the global narrative, the global picture of climate change in the novel. So, in one line, we can say that the novel is a compiling mix of adventure, the myth, the ecological consciousness, and spanning the Sundarbans to Venice, from India to Venice. And the learning outcome, as I can say that the novel, before that, I was not that much unaware that how we can relate the myth kind of traditional thing with the social and serious issue, such as climate change. So this is very attractive, we can say, the thing which attract me towards the novel. And another thing that I can say, that the novel is not only highlights the urgent environmental issues that we face nowadays, but it is also the things like rising the sea levels, and the other things of displacement of vulnerable communities. This is also the emphasize the how interconnectedness of that, how one community is connected with the serious and the worldwide issue like climate change. So before that, after in search class, we were discussing that how the stream of consciousness was using by Virginia Woolf, and how it is kind of interesting thing. So we can appreciate the writing style, the narrative style of Amitav Ghosh, that how he relate the kind of tell the kind of myth with the social and the global level kind of issue. So this is the important thing, and how these kind of narratives can attract youth, especially youth, towards the tell the myths as well, and it can leads us towards the global issues like climate change. For further information, I would like to invite my co-presenter Jai Solanki. Thank you. Hello everyone. I will go through the characters of the novel. First one is Dinanath Dutt, known as Din in America, and protagonist of our novel, who was narrate the story, and who was born in Calcutta and live on the New York. And throughout the story, we hold down the narration of by the Dinanath. And second one is Chinta. She was a progressive character in the novel, who was a researcher and professor at Venice. Another one is Priya Leroy. She was considered as a Pia. She was American girl and a researcher on the marine science or the biology of dolphin. And another one is Tipu, known as Tutul, a young fellow or who was recognized for his dealing with the knowledge of technology. And another one is Rafi, a caretaker of the shrine, grandson of this Maji, who was a migration from the city of Venice. Now the major character of the novel, major, but they all are represent as a significant role in the novel. First one is that Kenai, a friend of Dean, and he was also known as the cousin of this Dean. And one time, while the character of Dean, who was work on the research on the this folk tales, and the friend Kanai, he was makes fun of, while because he was research on these folk tales and all kind of things. Another one is Nilima Bose, aunt of Kanai, and she was work on the Sundarban and represent as a social worker in the Sundarban. Another one is Moina, Pia's friend, and helping her in on research. Moina, she was a wife of this fakir, a man, and the Moina and Fakir's son was this Tipu. And Moina's her husband, Fakir, he was died on this work on the research of this dolphin and this marine science. And after all this. Moina's husband of Fakir's death, Pia feels that I am responsible for the husband of Fakir's died, and she was decided that I am took the responsibility of this family. and Horian Naskar, the boatman, Durga, lovers of the Deen. After the story reflect in these three parts, the Durga as a reflect in this lover of the Deen. Lisa, roommate of Pia in the college. Ima, Gia's partner in the college. Now the story took on the other part where the reflection of the Bangladesh, and there is a reflection of this Luba and her husband Muni. They were work in this community and reflect as a community dynamics in the whole novel. The Muslim man Majid, who was the reflect as a caretaker in this novel, and Lucia, she was a daughter of Sinta. As a Sinta, she was. Alice, she was the mother of this Sinta, and the Lucia is the daughter of this Sinta. Now the learning outcomes throughout the novel, while we discuss about the character and in the contemporary times, and the reflection of this all kind of character reflect through the myth and this crisis, we learn about that through the character of this Dean learns to connect mythology with this crisis all around in the contemporary time, and the Pia understand the Pia or the which reflect the importance of collaboration and through the reflection of ecological storytellings, which reflect Amitav Ghosh in his novel, through the character of Tipu, which reflects migration and findings the identity or the displacement throughout the country, and Rafi, which reflect the hope and courage, highlighting the strength of human connection in adversity. Now I would like to invite Jyoti.
Thank you, Divya, for providing the background of all the characters. Now, first we come to know the story. First, we look at the narrative techniques, that how the story is built in this narrative techniques. There are four major techniques are there. There are also some of them are there, but it's not that major part of this story. But these four are there. So first is the first person narrative, that the major character the major character of the story of Dindat is a rare book dealer who is the first personality provide an intimate look into his thoughts, feeling, radial transformation as he uncovers the mystery surrounding the legend of the gun merchant. Uh, is in this narrative technique how Amitav Ghosh is defined the main character, how he represent this full story of beginning to the end. In also that it's showing that how multi-layer storytelling goes reflect by complexity and interconnected to global issues, and also is readers to grow connection between seemingly different event, like different event which including the story. The second one is the intervention of myth and the reality. In this narrative technique, we can find out the character of gun merchant, and how it's represent the Bengali folklore, about how it's setting of the contemporary idea of this myth and reality as well. Other one is ecological storytelling. There's a ghost employs that non-human narration indirectly by giving as it is agency to natural elements such as from animals and climate phenomena. These environmental changes are integral to the plot and often speak to the character through humor and coincidence. So we can find out in this story, we can also take place as natural element. How Amitav Ghosh is defined with every natural element in this storytelling, and how it concludes the importance of the natural elements like storm, animals like that. And the last one is polyphonic voices. So it's major part of this story, that how the multiplayer character are defining their background voices, and the other voices are there in like They are including that three character like Pia, Tipu, and Rafi are there. So their story and perspective intersect with Dean's journey. So till the beginning to till the end, they are the like background voices of the Dean. So let's come to the learning outcome. That what I can find in the learning outcome. That first I will not able to understand this story. That how is deal with this whole the story like how Dean's journey is going through. So first I when I read about the narrative technique, then comes to know that Ghosh is like giving his personal thought or personal emotion in this narrative. Second one is understanding of the ecological storytelling. As I said, that how Ghosh employed the natural element and how it concludes the some various events or various character to define the whole journey of Dean. Recognizing the blending of myth and reality in this, that myth and reality how structured as well, and how Ghosh is also using the Bengali folklore to include or defining the story. The last one is valuing polyphonic voices. As I said, that how in this story that multiple characters are like in the Dean's journey are defining as important role, but some of the way the story is not in a structure to tell about this journey of the Dean. So this is from my side. I would like to call Jatin Varu for the further. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Now it's time to spread some lights on the plot of the novel. The story starts with in a two-part. First part is the gun merchant and the journey of Sundarban, and second one is Venice and the global connection. The basically novel in the novel we find the two parallel story moving in a true story moving parallel in the novel. The first one is contemporary when our protagonist was alive, and the second one is a mythological story and it set in the 17th century in the novel. The first part is the gun merchant and the Sundarban, the protagonist and setting. Din Datta, engine rare book dealer from the Brooklyn, specialized in antiquity and leads a solitary life. On a trip of his hometown, Kolkata, Din introduced to the Bengali legend of the Banduki Sodagar, the gun merchant, by the Kanaka Dutt. The legend of the Banduki. Here we find the second story, the mythological story, take a place in the novel. The Banduki Sodagar was a wealthy merchant who refused the worship the snake goddess Mansa Devi. As a result, she cursed him. To escape her wrath, the merchant traveled across the lands and sea, eventually ending up to the mythical island called Gun Island, Bandukdweep. Despite his effort, the goddess kept turning him until he agreed to build a shrine in her honor. After knowing about the mythology of the gun merchant, the Dean become curious to know about the more. Then he start the journey towards Sundarban and the shrine of the gun merchant. The Dean learns from Nilima Bose, a philanthropist in the Sundarban, about the sharing dedicated to the Banduki Sodagar deep within the mangrove forest. Although the reclaimed the decide to visit the after encouragement of P.R. Roy, a marine biologist. Visit to Sundarban. Then travels to Sundarban region, reach a biodiversity but threatened by a climate change. At the Sherin, he finds the cryptic Bengali couplet hitting at the merchant's journey and connection to a global migration and trade. Then begins to see parallel between the legend and the real historical event like a colonialism and introduce the firearms to Bengal. Here we find the two basic and main theme of the novel, migration and the climate change. Dean investigate the legend he meets through young migrants, Tipu and Rafi, whose story reflect the struggle with poverty, climate change, and political instability. Environmental crisis. The Sundarban raising sea levels and sharing island represent the global threat to climate change. The novel is used myth to reflect the human fears about the natural disaster. Then the suddenly setting is a change and it take a place in a Venice, a new setting. The story moves to a Venice which have a similar kind of problem like a climate change, like a Sundarban, exploring the legend. In Venice, Dean connects the Banduki Sodagar story to Europe's historical trade routes, traveling, revealing how Bengal and Europe have a shared histories. Encounters with in Venice. Dean meets Chita, a Vietnamese historian who helps him uncover the deeper connection in the legend. Venice's role in the spice trade links the South Asia, building the past with the present and realities. Climax and conclusion. Interwoven realities. Dean's journey combines the myth, history, and modern issues, showing how fiction and reality overlap. The story ends with a powerful storm symbolizing both nature's fury and environmental of the change. Resolution. Dean's learns to embrace myth and involving the stories that stay relevant to a current challenge. The legend of the gun merchant becomes a symbol of survival, resilience, and humanity bond with nature. So here I tried to one Void AI tool map all the location of the in the novel. So in video we find how the location are marked in the novel, but here we find some issue. He minorly observed all the location which mentioned in the novel, like Vietnam, like for example Cheetah who comes with the Vietnam. So in the map we find the location of Vietnam also marked, but this map is created by the help of Google Map, and it's manually created, and it's more reliable rather than AI's map. So my learning outcome of this novel, understanding myth and reality. Before the growth of this novel, I personally believe the myth is just a story and there is no connection between reality and the myth. But after this story, I find the myth is also reflect the condition of human condition, climate change and awareness. Climate change in the story, we find the climate change in the Sundarban and the Venice. The more serious issue in the novel, and it leads towards the migration also. Importance of curiosity. As we find staying in our comfort zone, it leads towards some laziness and close the doors of knowledge. But Dean has a curiosity to knowing and explore the more, and that's why he uncovered the myth of sharing. Collaborative effort. Problem solving is a kind of a talent, but when it's come to a collaboratively, like for example in a novel we find Pia, Cheetah and Nilima's collaborative efforts are more reliable and more effective in the problem solving matter. Human and nature relationship. As we all know about the human and nature, both are going parallel and both are dependent on each other. For further information about the themes, I would like to invite Jai Marunia.
Hello everyone. Today, first thing in this novel, etymological mystery. The novel begins with the Dean's fascination with the term Banduki Sodagar, which becomes a metaphorical thread connecting language, history, and migration. Dean's quest to uncover its origins reveals layers of linguistic and cultural evolution, tying myth to historical event. Example, the connection between the Venetian ghetto's name and its historical roots in a foundry illustrate how words preserve cultural memory. The mysterious sharing in the Sundarbans further symbolize the theme, emphasizing how language holds the power to bridge past and present. The second theme was the historification of myth, the transformation of the gun merchant legend into a modern ecological and migratory in narrative underscore ghost ability historicize myth. The myth root in the gun merchant's escape from the Mansa Devi's wrath mirror contemporary struggles such as rising sea levels and mass displacement. Dean's skepticism about folklore evolves into beliefs, demonstrating how myth remain relevant in addressing women vulnerabilities in resilience. Example of this thing, the gun merchant ultimate devotion to Mansa Devi serves as a reminder humanity's dependence on the nature, reinforcing the timeless significance of storytelling and making sense of crisis. Here, quote, you must never use this phrase, Dino. At that time, people recognized that the story could tap into dimension that were beyond the ordinary. This quote reflects Dean's evolving understanding myth of relevance contemporary and Dean's journey. Climate change. Environmental degradation is a pervasive theme with the settings such as Sundarbans, Venice, California, illustrating the global reach of climate change. The Sundarbans are depicted as a fragile ecosystem under the threat from rising sea levels and cyclones, while Venice faces flooding and California grapple with wildfire. The example of the migration of sea snakes and cooler water symbolize the disruption of the natural habits due to global warming. Storm had no names in the region back then. In terms of casualties, the Vola cyclone was the greatest natural disaster of the 20th century. This quote reflects of character of Vola. In Amitav Ghosh's novel, non-fiction work, The Great Derangement, Ghosh elaborate on these themes, dividing book into three parts. First is story, examines the limitation of modern novel in grappling with the concept of climate change, highlighting the role of uncanny in storytelling. History explored the role of colonialism in the climate crisis, analyze how urban planning ignored indigenous knowledge, forcing culture to build away from the ocean. Politics. Critics of capitalism, imperialism as a systemic drivers from climate change, emphasizing their role in perpetuating, perpetuating environmental degradation. Migration and women trafficking goes the historical migration to contemporary refugee crisis, highlighting systemic exploitation and human cost and displacement. Character like Tipu and Rafi navigate the dangerous path of modern migration and countering the prejudice and exploitation. Their experience parallel to historical force relocation and depicted in the gun merchant story, such as a journey to escape persecution. The depiction of refugees crossing the borders during the Bhola cyclone disaster is a stark reminder of systemic neglect and women. This quote reflect to journey of the this character, all character Tipu and all. Learn how language connected history, migration, and culture memory throughout Dean's journey. Understand the relevance of the myth and addressing modern challenges. Gain awareness of the global impact of the climate change on the woman and nature. Recognize the struggle of migration and woman traffic, tackling of the historical and modern context. So the interconnectedness of the language, myth, climate change, like to call Akshay Nimba.
Thank you, Jay. Now let's discuss some symbols of the novel, which is significantly described in the novel by Amitav Ghosh. The first one is the gun. We all aware about the duality of gun, that it is a tool of protection, but it also destroy many things. That the gun represents historical violence and the effects of colonialism. It connects to the legend of Bonduki Sodagar, the gun merchant. this character is described deeply by the previous presenters. So, and the connection between the character Banduki Sodagar and the gun symbolizing the survival and the resistance. This reflects the duality of human action that I mentioned, that duality of human action, that it is a tool of protection and it also destroy many things. And by this symbol, Ghosh critique human greed and its ecological consequences. The second symbol is the Sundarbans. Sundarban. It is a kind of forest in Bengal that includes the mangroves. Mangroves is a kind of tree which is grows in a wet areas of Bengal, and this forest includes that kind of mangrove trees and Bengal tigers, and this symbolizes nature's strength and its vulnerability or to climate change and human exploitations. And it blends reality and mythology as a space for the snake goddesses Mansa's stories. And these symbols highlight the interconnectedness of human and natural world. The third symbol of the novel is the snake goddess Mansa. In the folklore, in the novel, we may find the snake goddess is Mansa. It is a protector of marginalized people who migrate one place to another place. Divine figure symbolizing migration, survival, and resilience. And this goddess is a protector of the marginalized, including migrants and the displaced. Snakes associate with Mansa symbolize adaptability in difficult conditions, and concept connect ancient mythology with contemporary issue of displacement. The fourth one is Venice, a city of northeastern Italy, that signifies the cultural exchange and vulnerability, historical hub for the trade and migration. So this city is specially known for the island canals and especially transportation. In the significant concept of in the novel, we may find that it is connected with migration and transportation. It faces rising sea levels, mirroring the ecological threats in the Sundarbans, and it represents the intersection of history and modern challenges. It highlights the universal nature of climate change and change impact. Then the dolphins. In the novel, we may find that in the many parts, in the polluted, unexpected waters, many parts dolphin rarely appears. In the same way, in the human life, we may find that hope and connection are rarely appearance, and this symbol of dolphin represent resilience of the life amidst an environmental destruction, and it serves spiritual guides bridging humans and nature worlds. It make a bridge between the human and natural world, reminds reader that hope can emerge even in dire situation. Then last symbol is Irrawaddy river, that signifies a movement and change, that how rivers flows one place to another place, and this movement make many changes. So in metaphors for life journey and in inevitability of change symbolizes physical and metaphorical migration in the story, and it also highlights the impact of climate change on ecosystem and human communities. And this symbol is also reflect the interconnectedness of natural and human system. So now learning outcomes. So throughout the whole novel, we I find that many global issues and interconnectedness of humanity, nature, and global crisis, especially the exploration of these 5 or 6 symbols. I get the clear idea about the natural world and its connectedness with human then myth and reality I also get clear idea, then exploring migration and survival, then recognizing global interconnectedness, that how one place or another place, both place have some similar issues, like first setting we may find in Sundarbans and another in Venice, that both places have some similar kind of global issues. Then acknowledging movement and change through the symbol of river, I got the clear idea of movement and change, that how movement or migration from one place to another place make many changes. So that is from my side. Now for the further discussion I would like to call Dhatri Parmar. Over to you, Dhatri.
So this is the literature review has been done of the article. To look at the chosen the article, I have gone through the altogether 6 articles, but due to time constraint, I'm going to discuss only 4 of them. First in the line is the planetary Los Angeles, climate realism and transitional narrative in Amitav Ghosh Gun Island. It was by Edward Gilson. In this article, Gilson argues that here Los Angeles is not just only one geographical location. However, with the help of this, Ghosh represented the entire planet through this. This idea of climate realism, this framework is utilized by Lynn Bedia, Marija Santic, and Jeff Diamanti. This climate realism is reflecting how the one geographical location is representing entire Earth. Uh, it departs from the traditional narrative, which where the Los Angeles become the global ramification of the climate crisis. From the article, I quote: "Ghosh overplays planet onto place and consciously conceal material space, showing how the climate crisis have pervaded every place on Earth, global South and global North." Unquote. So, especially connecting the global South with the North is the very idea of the Ghosh with this novel is there. Second article is by the Khan. In this article, Amitav Ghosh's Gun Island, the Climate Crisis and Planetary Environmentalism, the writer argues that there is a global inequalities and the global market, the climate migration. So there is an parallel. So it's not just only a migration of a human, but animal as well. So the Derridian idea of breaking the binaries. So here the very idea of decentering the human and taking animals into the consideration is taken into the novel, and there is an mythical supernatural element has been used. Talking about particularly history of European colonization, that how this slave trade has been portrayed in the novel, and I would like to read some of the excerpt from the novel about the horror of slave trade, which is happening in on the name of migration. So there is Dean having an interview with a person, and the person is telling him that what is happening. So he's describing the horror, that what is happening with the refugee people who are migrating from one place to another. So they have to basically reside into the connection houses where they're treated as a slave. And then I say a quote, then they are taken to the operation theaters where an organ is removed, usually a kidney. Then these organs are sold and often Europeans, unquote. So there, the migrant people are being a victim of this marginalization in this. In this article also, a researcher argues that I quote, "The Sundarban section of the Gun Island offers a microcosm view of the global South, victims of historical and ongoing injustice, further victimized by climate change." Unquote. So there was already a victim was happening because the people are migrating, but now just because of the climate change and the raising of the sea level and the degradation of the land over the sea areas, now there is another kind of an systematic kind of an climate change happening, affecting the migration, very idea of migration. In the article, researcher also argues what is the term ethnographic surrealism. So it is basically the element where the folklore, myth, and the history, three of the genres are getting combined. So Ghosh used very this idea of ethnographic surrealism. Another, this planetary consciousness, where Ghosh consciously merged Indian continent with the northern part of the world. So connecting Sundarban, Los Angeles, Venice. With this, he tried to showcase the theme of interconnectedness. Next article is Anthropocene and the Environment, reading of Gun Island. It is by Tiwari. In this article, Tiwari argues that there is a blends of course, myth and reality, and how this myth of Mansa Devi with real world climate changes is happening. And I would like to read one of the excerpt from the novel where Chinta is talking about this, and then in this conversation, they say that, I quote, things about animals and fish, the water, he would tell me that I didn't need to learn what he knew because the rivers and the forest and the animals are no longer as they were. He used to say that things were changing so much, so fast, that I wouldn't be able to get by here. He told me that one day I would have no choice but to leave, unquote. So, how the temperature all over is changing, and how the realities is affecting the very theme of the novel. Along with this, there is a detailed description of the cyclones, wildfires, which is even the happening in the present time as well. Dead zones where the animals are not able to live, and that's why they are having an mass suicide, as the incident of the Rani is happening in the novel. And there is also with this there is a spiritual disconnection. Ecological migration, especially with the reference of Bilal and Kabir and Rafi and Tipu. Four of the characters are symbolizing this ecological migration. And this slow violence, especially like the happening of a drought, happening of a salinization, the very incident of the Bangladesh is showing that how the family of the Rafi is moving from one place to another. And even the family of Kabir and Bilal facing climate changes, and that's why they are moving to another country as altogether. So there is a slow violation which is depicted in the novel. And impact on ecosystem, as I mentioned, that there was a dead zone, so animals are not able to survive there. Next article is From Mansa to Madonna, reading religion and mythology in Amitav Ghosh's Gun Island. It was by Charulata Chatterjee. And in this article, she argues that how this myth of snake goddess of Mansa Devi, which is very much Indian, and how the myth of Madonna, who saved the people in the Venice during the 16th century and from the plague. So how they both are connected. So with the help of this different continents myth, Ghosh tried to say that there was a kind of connection within the humanity. And even the I would like to read one of the line from that where there is a Madonna's image is going to put there. The Blessed Virgin has always been greatly venerated by Venetians. Now the whole city threw itself on her mercy. Even the city fathers, those component men of reason, recognized their utter helplessness and passed a resolution pleading to build a great church dedicated to Madonna. And when it happened, soon after that the plague began to recede, it was said that miracle had wrought by Santa Maria della Saluta, the Madonna of Good Health, unquote. So they basically developed a kind of a church. Similarly, in the Sundarban, there is a development of shrine of a Mansa Devi. So how these both things are getting connected. There is a themes of human trafficking and xenophobia, which is one of the quote from the novel. I quote, during illegal migration, many risk torture, deportation, detention, and falling prey of transnational organized crime, unquote. So what kind of an illegality people are facing and what kind of violence they are facing, it's there. And another is there from myth have the ability to reach out to the future. They are a portal to belief, not bound by the institutional religion, unquote. And that's why Ghosh used myth, especially in this case. The Sundarban and Venice are symbolically linked through each other, and even the Datta, while talking with the Tipu, talking about the Booth, the very idea of a Booth, and they said that, I quote, the ultimate salvation lies into the coexistence of all creature, all Bhutas, unquote. So here, he Bhutas, he means that all living of all human being together. This is the example of everyday happening around us, and this article is talking about the Rohingya Muslim who three of the people who are doing like fleeing from Myanmar, and they seek refuge, and what kind of and violence they face. Like they route, they started from the Bangladesh and they crosses the India, and then they proceed to Russia and Belarus. But this was not just journey, and they challenges the international migration policies. this article, very article is very graphical in its narrative as well, which showing that how their migration is happening. You can get the idea from this map that how the migration is happening, and how the characters, especially real life people, are facing what kind of and challenges in this. So this article is showing this. So my learning outcome from this is that haven't completed the novel entirely, but still the very idea of geographical condition, like Sundarban is the place for me, especially was a romanticized place where I wish to go one day. But after reading the novel, I got the idea that what is the real scenario of Sundarban is, what kind of an real situation is there. So I got developed the geographical understanding of Sundarban by the depiction of it. Similar way, I had the romanticized idea of the Venice, like we often see in the movies, like what kind of an depiction are there. So after reading here that what kind of an degradation is happening, the residents are like having a high tide, and Chinta is facing accident. So I got the idea, and even after that I watched the video 2-3 of Venice, that how the city really is. So we got the real life geographical understanding. So I come out from my romanticized understanding and got the very real understanding of the with the help of this novel. Another, it's also challenged my human trafficking assumption, that I used to believe that human trafficking must not has happened, like it should stop, like people cannot cross the boundary in the illegal ways. But while we are getting the story and narratives from that people who are actually facing the situation, the one people are leaving behind and one is moving forward, so we get the idea that what kind of hardship they face. So my understanding of the migration also got challenged by this novel. Another is we studied the theories of eco-criticism in semester 3, but I haven't had an experience of reading Clive-Fi. So I got the experience, first-hand experience to read a Clive-Fi, and got the idea that how nature is at the center, how humans are getting at the periphery, and what kind of challenges are there. So I learned to apply the eco-critical theory to the text. And yes, I also learned the etymological understanding, like when I first read the title Gun Island, and I got the idea that if there is a gun merchant and the idea of Mansha Devi, so the whole romanticized idea in my mind was that it is going to be myth, a kind of a story, folklore. But then I realized that it is not like that. This is a Venice, and the altogether the setting is totally different. So I developed the etymological understanding as well. To conclude the presentation, the novel ends with the message of hope and interconnectedness. It shows how climate change and migration are global issue to connect people and places. Indian characters merges with the American and Venice characters. Ancient myths are paralleled with modern struggles and making it very scientifically merging the myths with this. The story highlights the importance of coexistence with nature and each other to face global challenges. And the conclusion leaves us the sense of resilience and renewal. Just like the dung beetle of the Ministry of Utmost Happiness, here the thoughts of Dean helping us to having an hope in the humanities to take action collectively through the to the climate change. These are the references, and I would like to acknowledge the tool, Buoyant AI tool, for the video preparing and the chatbots to help us in arranging the content and image generation as well. So thank you. That's it from our side.
Okay, so quite well presented. And in briefly, we got an introduction to the entire text, that what are the characters in the novel, what is the storyline. Briefly, we got a glimpse of that, and also about how the themes of something that is very contemporary relevant is dealt in the writings by Amitav Ghosh also. You always given several tasks also to work out on this, and many of you have completed also the tasks. If I share a screen wherein this was given as a flip learning activity to all of you, and The task was shared here through Google Classroom. We shared the class, this activity, and we prepared a worksheet here wherein you were supposed to watch several videos, which were the recordings of our previous classroom interactions. And after watching these videos, you have to complete the worksheet. Two worksheets are given, wherein you can use generative AI tools also, but you're watching videos and you're reading the original text matters most. uh, our main purpose also was to see that when you use generative AI tools, if you are not aware about the original story or the novel, then you may not be able to select the correct material from the content that is generated also, and that is visible in some of the presentations, some of the slides. It was visible also. We will talk about that in our classroom interaction. You're supposed to do a thematic reflection and other things to submit your work also, and many of you have submitted your works also. Okay, so we will have a look at your works that is being submitted. You still have 2 more days. I think tomorrow is the last day to submit your work. So I hope by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you all will complete your activities also. Okay, so we got a good introduction to the text. I would suggest everybody, all the presenters also and all the students also, to etymologically try to see what is the meaning of Gun Island. There is a long video on the etymology also, which also is one of the thematic concern of this novel. Linguistic study. Amitav Ghosh deals with language also in an interesting manner. So how the words are getting the meaning, and then later on when we see the word, we try to see exactly the replica, the image of what the word is conveying, but that may not be the correct meaning also of that. It might be something else also. So go through that particular video on etymological study. In the next class we will see what is the title, what does the title stand for. That is the question that we will ask, and we will start our discussion with that. Okay? We end our live stream here, and from tomorrow onwards we will have our classroom discussion on this novel.